Up next, we have a thought leadership spotlight focused on how HR leaders improve business performance amid high disruption and complexity. This features Dave Osh. He is the CEO at Varlinks. During this session, we will look at how in turbulent times, HR executives can excel as business partners if they follow several key steps to boost their leadership effectiveness. Dave will explore what matters the most in ever-accelerating change, how to navigate uncharted waters without a map, and how to build organizational capacity to create ambitious outcomes, even in these times. So with that, Dave, over to you.
HR leaders have the power to make a measurable impact on business performance. Let me share with you a story when I was the Vice President for Asia Pacific at Orbotech in the year 2000. The business was growing 100% a year, but the headcount was 50% behind the budget. I wasn't just stressed. I was desperate to hire an HR director who wasn't just capable of saving my job. Yeah, it was that bad, but also capable of facilitating hyper growth in a country where we had no presence, no experience, and no knowledge: China. After interviewing and disqualifying a dozen candidates, the last one on my list was Jamie. Jamie had just relocated to Hong Kong from the Silicon Valley. She worked for HP Consulting as an HR business partner, and she had been looking for a similar role. She was a great fit, except that I wasn't looking for a business partner. The truth is, I didn't have a clue what an HR business partner was. But I heard myself saying, sure, business partner it is. And I didn't know what I was getting myself into. Already in her first month, Jamie started traveling to the regional subsidiaries. And shortly after, I began to receive late-night angry calls from division VPs. They all started the same way. Get Jamie off my back. I don't need a business partner. The situation went from bad to worse. The business VPs had P&L responsibilities. They were the rainmakers, and they formed a camp against Jamie, and I was stuck in the middle. I learned that behind the VP's backs, Jamie persuaded the heads of sales and customer service in our largest, most mature subsidiary, Orbotech Taiwan, to relocate to China. Now, China was our vision. Taiwan was our bread and butter. It was the largest revenue source and the largest commission quota for the VPs. So if the 70-year conflict between the two countries wasn't enough, we started our China-Taiwan turf war, in which Jamie had become the scapegoat. Now, don't get me wrong, Jamie's plan was brilliant. We didn't have a chance to hire English-speaking leaders in China. And because of the language barrier, we couldn't relocate from anywhere other than Taiwan. I finally started realizing the real impact of an HR business partner. Eventually, Jamie's plan was approved despite the massive pressure from the executive team. In the following year, we doubled the market share from 30 to 60% and revenue from $120 million to $240 million. But I got worried about Jamie. She was a workaholic, and she always looked tired. I asked her to take time off, but she didn't. A year later, Jamie was diagnosed with late-stage cancer and passed away at 41, leaving a husband and a 12-year-old daughter. It was heartbreaking to lose a colleague and a friend. Jamie was my hero. She was my first and last HR business partner. And I'm not sure why. Was I afraid after losing Jamie to overpush HR leaders to become business partners, or is it a systemic problem in the HR profession? Now, seriously, Aren't we hypercritical about HR? You have probably heard the cliche that employees are the company's greatest asset. Well, if so, why don't HR leaders ever become CEOs? The reason? HR leaders haven't made a measurable impact on business performance. I want to share with you a framework that will enable you to make an impact on business results, especially in high disruption and complexity. The framework is based on the Leadership Circle first ever study that correlated the soft data of leadership effectiveness to the hard data of business performance. Leadership effectiveness from the Leadership Circle 360-degree assessments, business performance from companies' data of growth, revenue, profitability, and market share. The study reveals that leadership effectiveness explained 38% of business performance. 38%. The average effectiveness at the bottom 10% performing businesses is at the 30th percentile, and at the top 10% is at the 80th percentile. Now imagine a virtual line at the 50th percentile. Below the line is a competitive disadvantage zone. Above it is a competitive advantage zone. We make an impact on business performance when we drive a one big shift from the disadvantage to the advantage zone, because the organization can't perform at a level higher than the collective effectiveness of its leadership. Our database of 180,000 senior leaders shows that the sweet spot of development is the shift from reactive to creative leadership. Creative leaders bring out the best in others. They lead with vision. They enhance collaboration. They act with integrity, and they improve organizational systems. Reactive leaders prefer self-protection over productive engagement, aggression over building alignment, and control over collaboration. Reactive leaders have an average effectiveness at the 40th percentile. Creative leaders have an average effectiveness at the 70th percentile. However, the data reveals a sad reality. 80% of the leaders are in the reactive stage. 80%. Only 20% have shifted to creative stage. I made it my mission to help organizations make a one big shift from reactive to creative, from ineffectiveness to effectiveness, from underperformance to high performance. Leadership effectiveness is your one competitive advantage that no one can copy. So why is this so important? The world is moving faster than ever before to higher disruption, uncertainty, and complexity, where only creative leaders succeed. Reactive leaders do very well during times of stability, certainty, and simplicity. They are ineffective in high disruption and complexity, such as COVID-19. The creative and reactive are like different operating systems. Disruption, uncertainty, and complexity are like applications that run on that operating systems. The higher the complexity is, the more you need to upgrade from the ineffective reactive operating system to the highly effective creative operating system. This is the performance gap we see in organizations. So if you remember only one thing today, it's the one big shift from reactive to creative leadership. So let's see what the 3 steps to make the one big shift are. First, assess your leadership effectiveness. Second, decide on the one big shift. And third, shift with concurrent coaching. So let's dive into the first step. Jeff Hilsinger, the CEO of Marlin, shared his 10-year leadership development journey. He took his first assessment in 2007, and his leadership effectiveness was at the 80th percentile. 3 years later, it had dropped to the 30th percentile. How on earth does a creative leader become reactive again? Leadership is contextual. When the context changes, leadership changes. There were two changes in the context. First, Jeff was promoted from COO to CEO. The bar was higher. Second, in 2008, the Great Recession hit, and Marlin was severely affected by the turmoil. Jeff didn't upgrade his operating system fast enough to adjust to the higher complexity, so he slipped to the reactive mode. He decided on a one big shift to align the executive team to a new vision by being more collaborative and less autocratic and critical. In the following 7 years, he scaled his leadership effectiveness from the 30th to the 95th percentile. Assessing, tracking, and boosting leadership effectiveness was the secret sauce of building an extraordinary leadership team, and Marlin's stock soared tenfold during this period. So, the first step is to assess leadership effectiveness, individually and collectively. The second step is to decide on the one big shift. Dana Saucier, the co-founder and CMO of Accent Energy, was in dire straits. Accent Energy faced serious problems between sales and operations that slowed down growth. The departments worked in silos. People didn't share data, processes weren't cross-functional, and there were serious communication problems. The leadership team decided on a one big shift to dissolve the silos within the organization. They chose the reactive creative framework as a common language for alignment. They shifted quickly because each one of the team members had made a one big shift that was aligned to the organizational one. Accent Energy sales grew from $3 million to $400 million in just 2 years. In our assessment, there are 18 creative domains. None are new. Tons of studies, books, and trainings on each one of them. So how do you explain that only 20% of our leaders are creative? How do you explain that in the US alone, companies spend $14 billion every year on leadership development, and still in surveys, 2/3 of the CEOs identify leadership development as their number one concern? Because 11 reactive domains pull leaders in the opposite direction. The reactive tendencies slow down, sometimes inhibit completely the development of creative leadership. These reactive blind spots suck energy, create stress, and produce dysfunctional teams. The one big shift works because teams focus only on one outcome. They start or do more of just one creative behavior. They stop or do less of just one reactive behavior. So now, after assessing leadership effectiveness and deciding on the one big shift, it's time to make the shift with Concurrent coaching. Providence Medical Technology is a medical device company that provides innovative solutions for cervical spinal conditions. The company struggled with vicious cycles of funding rounds that consumed too much of the executive team's energy, time, and attention. So we started working together more than a year ago, and the leadership team decided on a one big shift to become sustainably profitable. independent of VC funding, and to aim for an IPO. When we started, the team's leadership effectiveness was at the 35th percentile. It doubled to the 78th percentile 3 months into the engagement. 6 months later, they didn't just survive, but thrived even during COVID-19. They are moving much faster towards their IPO vision. So what was the secret of such a rapid shift? The secret was concurrent coaching. Bill Gates said, everyone needs a coach. Eric Schmidt said, every team needs a coach. So merge them together and you get a hybrid of executive coaching and team coaching. It isn't enough that the team members shift. The whole team has to shift. Concurrent coaching is super effective because it optimizes the team for the team members and the team members for the team. So there is a saying that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Not in organizations. Peter Senge, MIT professor and author of The Fifth Discipline, wrote, "It's amazing how often you come across teams with an average intelligence of over 120, but the team functions at a collective intelligence of about 60. A reactive team plays independently, like a golf team. A creative team plays interdependently, like a basketball team. Now, golf teams don't have team coaches. Basketball teams do." Eric Schmidt, former Google CEO, and Jonathan Rosenberg, former Senior VP of Products at Google, shared the impact of hybrid executive coaching and team coaching on Google's growth in their book, The $1 Trillion Coach. Their coach was Bill Campbell, who unfortunately passed away in 2016. As a former football coach, Campbell always defaulted to the team. He was always making the fine-tuned alignment between the team and its members. That's the concept behind concurrent coaching. Campbell didn't coach only Google's team. He coached some of the most successful executives in the world, from Steve Jobs to Jeff Bezos. Concurrent coaching changes the underlying mindsets and beliefs that drive the actions and behaviors. It goes deeper than team building, team facilitation, or team training because the inner game runs the outer game. There is no possible organizational transformation without a preceding transformation in the operating system of the leaders, individually and collectively. So these are the 3 individual and collective steps. First, assess leadership effectiveness. Second, decide on the one big shift. And third, shift through concurrent coaching. The Leadership Circle framework has worked for every industry from 50 to 50,000 employee companies, including Pixar, which Professor Amy Edmondson gave as an example in the opening session for a company that got diversity and inclusion right. You, the HR leader, finally have the power to enable your organization to leap to the next growth level without sacrificing your health like Jamie. You, the HR leader, now have the framework to make a ripple effect of high performance across the organization and beyond. You, the HR leader, is best positioned for leading the shift from reactive to creative so that you'll change forever the devastating 80-20 reactive-creative ratio. We invite you to join the creative leadership movement and become a true business partner. You can start by taking a complimentary self-assessment followed by a free 60-minute debrief to help you craft your one big shift. You can contact me at dave.osh@varnix.com. So let's make the one big shift together. Thank you.